Hiroshima. Michigan Congressmember Tim Walberg made the comment during a recent town hall.
We shouldn't be spending a dime on humanitarian aid. It should be like Nagasaki and Hiroshima.
After facing widespread criticism for calling for the atomic bombing of Gaza, Congressmember Tim Walberg, who's a former pastor, issued a statement claiming he was not advocating for the use of nuclear weapons in Gaza. In Lebanon, 3 U.S. security sources in Lebanon told Reuters Israel was behind the attack, but Israel denied the claim. Meanwhile, Israel has assassinated a Hezbollah commander named Ismail al-Zin in a targeted drone strike in southern Lebanon. In campaign news, Donald Trump has posted a video on social media that includes an image of President Biden hog-tied in the back of a pickup truck. A spokesperson for Biden's campaign said, quote, Trump is regularly inciting political violence, and it's time people take him seriously. Just ask the Capitol police officers who were attacked protecting our democracy on January 6th, they said. Meanwhile, Trump continues to publicly attack the daughter of New York Supreme Court Justice Juan Merchan, who is hearing Trump's hush money case. Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg has asked for a gag order on Trump to be expanded to include the judge and his wife. In Turkey, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's ruling party has suffered historic losses in local elections as the secular opposition Republican People's Party won mayoral races in Turkey's 5 largest cities, including the capital Ankara. In Istanbul, Ekrem İmamoğlu won re-election with more than 51%, cementing his role as a possible future challenger to Erdogan.
The nation itself gives the order and the instructions, not just one person. Officials receive instructions from the nation. The period of one-man rule is over as of today. It is done. The Republican democracy go full speed ahead from now on.
Armed police raided the home of the Peruvian president Dina Boluarte as part of a corruption probe dubbed Rolex Gate. The deeply unpopular interim president has been accused of illegally acquiring more than a dozen luxury watches over the past 3 years. She's denied any wrongdoing and has rejected calls to resign. President Boluarte has led Peru since December 2022 after Pedro Castillo was ousted from office. Yesterday marked the 15th annual International Transgender Day of Visibility. President Biden issued a proclamation, quote, honoring the extraordinary courage and contributions of transgender Americans and recognizing March 31st as Transgender Day of Visibility. Biden has recognized the date every year since taking office, but Republican lawmakers and Trump attacked Biden for the move since the holiday coincided this year with Easter Sunday. Amidst a Republican crackdown on their rights, trans and non-binary communities led rallies at state houses across the country Sunday to celebrate trans joy and demand equitable rights. Elsewhere, activists in Mexico City were met with riot police and tear gas as they marched to demand a law protecting the rights of transgender people. This is Jennifer Rodriguez.
We want respect for our human rights. We don't want to be discriminated against when we apply for a job. We want the medical assistance we deserve. We want to be able to get a house and all the benefits free marriage provides. We don't want to be killed only for being different. We don't want sex work to be our one unique option to survive. While the government doesn't provide all these, we want our integral trans law that gives us the right to express our identity and change our gender and make hormonal changes when we come to legal age.
In other news from Mexico, authorities are investigating the deaths of 8 Chinese nationals after their bodies were found on a beach in the southern state of Oaxaca Saturday. One survivor of the shipwreck says the boat departed from Tapachula, a border city with Guatemala, which is a common departure point for migrants hoping to reach the U.S. border. In California, are getting a big raise. Beginning today, all fast food chains in California must pay workers at least $20 an hour. And the pioneering actor Lou Gossett Jr. has died at the age of 87. In 1983, he became the first Black performer to win an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor for his role in An Officer and a Gentleman. He was also the founder of the Eracism Foundation, which aimed to erase racism. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Israeli forces withdrew from Gaza's largest hospital, Al-Shifa, today, after a 2-week raid that's left most of the medical complex in ruins, with dead bodies on the ground in a wasteland of charred and destroyed buildings. The government media office in Gaza said over 400 Palestinians were killed and over 1,000 homes in Shifa destroyed. Army bulldozers also plowed over a makeshift cemetery in the hospital courtyard. The World Health Organization said at least 21 patients died since the raid began March 18th. Built in 1946, Shifa was once the flagship medical facility in Gaza. Since October, Gaza's health sector has been completely decimated. Only 2 hospitals are minimally functional and 10 partially functional, according to the United Nations. The rest have shut down completely after being shelled, besieged, and raided by Israeli troops or running out of fuel and medicine. On Sunday, an Israeli airstrike hit a tent encampment outside of Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital in Deir al-Balah. The attack killed 2 Palestinians and injured 7 journalists. The death toll in Gaza is nearly 33,000, including 14,000 children. Many thousands of others are missing under the rubble and presumed dead. The number of wounded has topped 75,000. For more, we're joined by Dr. Hassan Abu Sifa, a British Palestinian reconstructive surgeon. He worked in Gaza for over a month as a volunteer with Doctors Without Borders, treating patients at both Al-Shifa and Al-Ali Baptist hospitals. He's joining us from London. Welcome to Democracy Now! It's great to have you with us. So you have heard the news, Dr. Abu Sifa. Al-Shifa destroyed, the largest medical complex in the Gaza Strip. Can you talk about its significance and then talk about your experiences when you were in Gaza?
First of all, if you'll allow me, Amy, I'd like to start by paying tribute to my friend and colleague, Dr. Ahmed Al-Maqadmi, a young, brilliant plastic surgeon with whom I had worked at Shifa during this war and at Al-Ahli Hospital. And I'd worked with him before during the 21 war and during the Marches of Return. His body, alongside that of his mother, were found the day when the Israeli troops withdrew, and they had been executed by the Israeli army while trying to escape Shifa. Dr. Ahmed was a brilliant and dedicated young surgeon who had won the Humanitarian Fellowship of the Royal College of Surgeons of England. And it's critical that we remember their names and we remember their stories. And today I want to send my love to his wife and to his children, both under the age of 5, who are now left without a husband and a father, along with so many of my colleagues who we've lost. This is the second plastic surgeon who I work with at Shifa, who has been killed by the Israelis, and over 345 doctors and nurses and paramedics who've been killed by the Israelis, intentionally targeted. Now, with regards to Shifa, Shifa was 30% of the capacity of the health system in Gaza. And so the destruction of Shifa, the wanton destruction of Shifa, is a critical component of Israel's plan to genocidally make sure that Gaza becomes an uninhabitable place even after a ceasefire happens. By destroying Shifa and making sure that it is irreparable, the Israelis are trying to make sure that for years to come, Gaza does not have a functioning health system. Shifa now needs to be completely demolished and a new building and a new hospital built once the building starts. This is part of the genocidal machine. But for me, as someone who has, I reached Shifa Hospital on the 10th of October, on the morning of the Tuesday, and was in Shifa on and off throughout my whole 43 days in Gaza. It is not just the Israeli soldiers and the Israeli leaders, the genocidal tip of the iceberg that I blame. I blame the Western journalists who perpetuated the narrative that militarized the hospital as a justifiable and an acceptable target to the Israelis. These genocide enablers, these Western journalists, from the very beginning, peddled these stories that the Israelis were feeding them about Shifa being on top of this massive complex of command and control center. And their job was to enable the genocide to take place. And the genocide can only take place if the health system is destroyed. And so their hand, blood of my friend, blood of Ahmed Muqadmi, is on the hands of the CNN journalists and the BBC journalists and the ITV journalists who from the very beginning were peddling this narrative.
I'm looking at a comment right now from Raed Al-Nims, a representative for the Palestinian Red Crescent Society, who said many departments at Al-Shifa Hospital were set on fire. Many bodies are lying around the ground. Al-Nims told Al Jazeera, the situation is dire. The medical staff, some of them killed, others tortured, others detained. Above all, they've been besieged for 2 weeks without any medical supplies or even food or water. Shifa itself means healing. It's a house of healing. Also, 1,000 houses in the area were also destroyed as the Israeli military destroyed the hospital. Dr. Ghassan Abu Sita, as you worked there, can you talk about, especially since you are a reconstructive surgeon, the child amputees and what they face in there and the other hospitals you worked at?
So from the very beginning, it was obvious that half of the wounded were children. And you know, on a daily basis, my operating list would be between 8 and 12 surgeons. And half of them were children. And the sheer ferocity of the bombing, the fact that the Israelis were targeting.
Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. It was in the beginning, is now, ever shall be, world without amen. Our Father, meaning our Creator, who art in heaven, meaning a place not here, but here at the same time. Thy will be done. So how could God, a loving God, let all this happen? Well, God doesn't let this happen, doesn't make this happen, knows it's happening. But we, human beings, we make this happen. They can't say, oh, the devil made me do it. We made this happen. We in the United States, we made this happen. You know, our government, our military, our industrial complex, our banking, all have an investment in this, as do a good deal, if not all, of the EU and Russia, and everything is Hail Hydra, you know? There is a centralized entity within the construct of the matrix of our life stream here, right? And that is the concept of, you know, the tree of good and evil, you know, the cartoon with the devil on one side and the angel on the other side. Well, that's where we're at, kids, you know? And when people go, oh, praise God, praise Jesus, praise God, praise Jesus, praise God, you know, that's nice. But until you get out into the world, right? Why do I leave the deep green? I mean, I don't even have a car, you know, it takes me effort to, I don't have any real money. No one's putting anything in the old PayPal. That would be nice, you know, PayPal. The dude awake 42 at Gmail. If anybody wants to say anything, dude awake 42 at Gmail. The dude awake 42 at Gmail. This is a live chat. Love to hear from you guys. How you feeling about, what's going on your planet? And truth. What is truth? It's what's right in front of your face. If you don't realize that we are in a autocracy, we're not in a democracy, and it's not, Donald Trump ain't gonna, he's bad, Biden good. No, they're both the same character. They both are two wings of the same plutocratic, chumpy capitalist system. Capitalism isn't, something that has to be, or socialism has to be. Money is just a tool, like a hammer. You can either build a house with it or hit somebody over the head with it. So what is truly needed is a motif that everyone is measured by their self-worth, meaning what they do, right? And not what they manipulate, what they steal, what they, say they have, all of that, but what they actually freaking do. What do they do with their every day? When they go out to the supermarket, do they just go around grumbling, oh, these people, oh, I need Cheerios, I hate all these people, I need this. No. If you go around with the essence of love in your heart and talk to the folk that you come in contact with, you're doing God's work right there. If you stick yourself up on top of a hill, in a school, or in a house, or in a bunker, or wherever, and don't interact with the human beings, don't go out there, don't deal with them, right? And when you do deal with them, you don't run away from them. Like the other day at the, one of my churches had a Easter egg hunt, right? So I went down there and helped them, right? To, hide the eggs, right? And so I was out on the big, big lawn where the big road is. And I was, crawling because I can't get up, so I was crawling around. And then a couple hours later, this guy was standing by the door with his buddies, and they were all cracking jokes about this or that, right? And as I was walking in, he goes, "Oh, look, it's the cow that was on the front lawn." I mean, he was talking about me because I was on all fours, right? And I was wearing these pants, right? That mimics a cow, right? They're white and black, right? And so he goes, "What are you wearing? Are those women's clothes?" Meaning the pants I was wearing. I said, "Yeah, man, they are. They're like, really, here, touch them. I'm not touching your leg." I said, "Oh man, you're so, because all those guys were all, decked out in Carhartt, right? And I had my obligatory camo vest on. So anyway, I said, "Listen, you know why I have these pants? Because they feel so good on my junk. Here, feel them. Feel my junk. Wah, right?" And I said, "Listen, women love these. So why shouldn't I wear them? Girls are the only ones who get to wear these ruby pants? No, they're really nice. They're like ski pants. They keep you warm in the summer. I mean, in the winter and cool in the summer. They're so nice against your legs, next to that Carhartt crap that you wear. It's, because why do you think your legs are, junking away?" Anyway, I just went on and on and on and on. And I just kept cracking jokes, not about him, but about myself, right? I said, "Women love this, man. I have no problem with this." And, this is right off the bat shows that I have no issues about my gender, I have no issues about my manhood, nothing, I'm not worrying about, what people think. How about you? All you guys look the same. I can't tell. You're all Larry, right? You're Larry, you're Larry, you're Larry. And they were all like, couple of them thought it was funny and were just chuckling about it because I'm sure they must have thought the same thing. Like they were going, "Oh, I wish I could wear those pants." Anyway, so but the big fat one, he just couldn't do it. And I patted him on the back. There's this thing. Um, there's a nerve ganglia right above your shoulder, where Spock would pinch people, right? Well, if you pat it, it disrupts a number of modalities within your consciousness. And that's how people who hypnotize people, you always see them kind of pat people on the back, right? Right about here, up on the shoulder, right? And so I did that to him, and he didn't say anything. I walked away. And so, but I went back to what I was doing, and I was helping the other guy barbecue. Why I was out there is because this one guy was barbecuing all the hot dogs, and I kept coming out with a dish, so he could put them in there and he could put new ones on there. And so anyway, I was doing that, and I went, back into where the hot dogs were served, and gave them to the girls. And I kept coming out, and I bought a whole bag of these bunny ears, right? You get at the Dollar Tree. And I started passing them around. It was really interesting who would take the bunny ears and who weren't, right? So I went out there with the boys, and the guy who was cooking, I said, "Hey, see, here's some bunny ears for you." So he put them on. And then I handed them out to the other boys, and they were all looking at the big fat guy. And I said, "Here, buddy, these pink ones would look good on you. They got all sparklies on them." And he was just... So that is truth right there, right in front of your face. That is true. So when you see, the morons go on and on about Donald Trump or Joe Biden or any of the above, don't take it in. I mean, we are already under martial law. We have been since 1940, but you don't know that.
How did a simple teacher deceive the German army? During the Battle of the Ardennes, the Germans were able to take a better position and place artillery pieces so that the U.S. Army units were under constant fire. The Germans fired without misses and inflicted heavy damage on the U.S. Army. However, the American commanders noticed that one of the military units did not suffer any losses or casualties under artillery fire. Therefore, they decided to find out the reason for such luck. It turned out that the commander of this unit had previously worked as a physicist at the school and had a good command of optics. As night approached, the commander physicist realized that their position was open and they were in the palm of the enemy's hand. In the open terrain stood the only landmarks, wooden power line pillars. The commander ordered to cut 1 meter off each pole. The Germans took the poles as a landmark, laid them on a binocular grid, and calculated the distance to the enemy. As a result, German shells did not hit U Army positions. How did a simple teacher deceive the German army?
I'm in a war. I need a soldier. So I'm going to work for one drug dealer killing other drug dealers. That's your idea of a choice. You know better. You're not them. You know what they are. Meaning the Salamancas. And you are so very different.
Wayfair helps all of us create a home. Celebrities who have unique genetic mutations. First up, we have the stunning Halle Berry. She's not just a talented actress, but she also has a condition called polydactyly, which means she was born with an extra toe. Next, we have the beautiful Kate Bosworth. Ever noticed her captivating eyes? That's because she has heterochromia, a condition that gives her 2 different colored eyes. Then there's the gorgeous Megan Fox. You might know her from the Transformers series, but did you know she has a condition called brachydactyly? This gives her shorter than average thumbs. Lastly, we have the charismatic Ashton Kutcher. He was diagnosed with a rare autoimmune disease called vasculitis, which affected his ability to see, hear, and walk. Celebrities who have unique...
Are you Asian? Half Asian? Yeah. So she's higher ranked than you, half Japanese. So you're half Korean. That's cute. So your mom is also a basic bitch who decided to go white. Is your dad obedient? Is he Jewish? Is he Jewish? Okay. I like Jewish men. They listen. I love Jewish men. They are so well trained by their moms. Whenever I abuse them, they feel like home. What species are you? You. What do you do?
I'm a construction project manager.
Oh, okay. So you guys can work together. It's the Chinese, but they try to do fuck you. So actually, no. Are you Asian?
Are your choices come back only when they're awake? The older, less intelligent one seems to derive pleasure from inflicting damage upon his younger, weaker sibling.
He's a kid.
They act up. Oh my God, if I have to come back there one more time, I will lose my mind. Knock it off.
On my planet, when a program is not functioning properly, it is deleted.
That's always an option.
If you wish, I will vaporize them.
No, for God's sake, I'm kidding.
You're the one that said I shouldn't bring it, so you don't get to play. You don't get to make the rules. Yeah, I do. Isaac!
The game is never to be spoken of again. Are your children always as
Japan's decision to attack Pearl Harbor is a pivotal error. They are already grossly extended in China. They want to cut out foreign aid. Remember that Hawaii is not a U.S. state. It doesn't become a state until 59 or something.
Veterans, if you are under 90% rated.
Japan's decision to attack Pearl Harbor is a pivotal error. They are already grossly overextended in China. They want to cut out foreign aid. Remember that Hawaii is not a U.S. state, become a state or 59 or something. So, and they probably take this racist view of Hawaiians or whoever they think Hawaiians are. And so their idea is we're going to take a newspaper, thwap the dog on the snout, and the dog will quit. And instead, you create great power allies all across the Pacific for the Chinese. So yeah, there are pivotal errors that you can make.
Veterans, if you are under 90% rated, you may be.
Japan's decision to.
Veterans, if you are under 90% rated, you may be.
Japan's decision to attack Pearl Harbor is.
Veterans, if you are under 90% rated, you may be eligible.
Why did the United States impose the death penalty for scattering salt on railroad tracks? In the United States, in the state of Alabama, there was an unusual law that provided for the death penalty for scattering salt on railroad tracks. This may seem strange, as salt is a common product, and who would have thought that scattering it on the tracks could be a crime? However, in the past, it has become a favorite way for robbers to rob trains and entire trains. Along the railroads in Alabama, special poles were erected on which trespassers were immediately hung if they were caught. Under the laws of the time, a man caught by the sheriff for trespassing was executed by hanging without investigation or trial. To stop the train, the outlaws devised a cunning plan using salt. There were many elk in Alabama who liked the salty taste. The robbers scattered salt on the tracks, attracting entire herds of these animals. Train drivers had to. This training is hailed as the toughest in the world. The Shaolin monks are revered as the ultimate superhumans on Earth. Starting their rigorous regime at the age of 4, they undergo relentless physical and mental conditioning.
Let's take them down to Pine Barrens. That's South Jersey. It's perfect. We take them in the woods, dig a hole, end the story. The best part is, we'd be like 20 minutes from AC.
I need to keep things simple.
Like this place. Simple. Only one road in, one road out.
I'll use the back roads to the Pine Barrens, Chip.
But I bet it's one hell of a slog.
Take them down to Pine Barrens.
Crude, but very usable.
I wouldn't touch that stuff if I was you.
Oh, you don't have to worry. I know how to handle this. I have an urgent need for a small supply of this drug, too.
That stuff ain't mine. It belongs to him. You'd better ask him.
Oh, so you're the dentist. I have a serious emergency. I wonder if you mind if I borrow a small quantity of this. I'm a doctor.
That joke is all around town already.
Okay, I don't know if you guys are going to believe me or not, but I was just talking to my friend who lives in this house, by the way, and he said he only pays $47 a month for his home insurance policy. And
how'd Dominic take it? He took it fine. Good, because I have a plan. Let's hear it. We go to the last place.
Hey, guy, this Paul. Yeah, man. What happened? The rapture was supposed to be today, man. All these evangelical right-wing
See, that's Paul, the guy Jesus one, the road to Damascus.
disappeared today. What do you mean it did happen? They're still here. Oh. Well, yeah, that makes sense. Damn. Hey, guy, this Paul. Yeah, man. What happened? The rapture was supposed to be today, man. All these evangelical right-wing jackholes were supposed to disappear today. What do you mean it did happen? They're still here. Oh.
You know, Mike, we was all proud of you being a hero and all. Your father, too.
Here's what a new gutter system should cost. Include.
You and Donald Trump have a long history together.
Recently, you've had a very public feud, but you've also known each other since the 80s. What is the worst thing you've heard Donald Trump say in private?
Well, actually, in private, he always was very nice. As a matter of fact, the last conversation I had with him, a private conversation, was when he called me and asked me for my endorsement when he ran for president, and I declined. Since then, everything that he says about me or to me is on Twitter. Arnold,
A few times I saw people make the mistake of heckling Dave Attell.
Here's a little drinking tip. Never get drunk when you're wearing a hooded sweatshirt, because you will eventually think there's someone right behind you.
Like not knowing. Like I remember going up and
here's who.
I drink probably a little too much, you know. And I went to the doctor recently, and the doctor asked me the question he always asks. He was like, "How many drinks do you have per week?" And I panicked because I was like, if I say 0, he's gonna know I'm lying, and if I tell the truth, he's gonna send me straight to AA. So I said, I have 5 drinks a week.
I've got the Easter Bunny on one shoulder and a duck on the other shoulder. So clean up this mess, soldier. No, don't say it. Nobody's ever told me that. My dad never told me that. He said it was okay if I didn't join the army. This would be good to have the kids to hug and stuff like that. But for some reason, she has them in Texas. So here's the thing. I'm just gonna clean this place up. Clean up this mess. Ricky, there's people that talk that way are kind of mean. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. I'm looking for the tripod. Here's one, but it's like not as good as the other tripod. I'm gonna clean. This place got pretty messy. Look at all the mess that I'm gonna clean up. It's not that much because it was really clean before this stuff. I've been saving it to clean up in one video. Look, I'm a teenager trying to sound old.
So that's our world, you know, a real mess. And we're all just teenagers, and we're saving the mess to clean it up later. Really? So here it is, 33 minutes and 33 seconds. How you doing? What time is it? Let's see.
On the checkpoint with no movement. It's all part of intimidation and control. And as I said, we're also now isolated from Jerusalem. Jerusalem is 15, 20 minutes drive from where I'm speaking from. Jerusalem, you know, we used to be considered like another neighborhood in Jerusalem, like 2 twin cities. But right now, for the first time in history, we are completely isolated as Bethlehem and Jerusalem.
And again, if you could talk about what happened on Good Friday, the procession in the old city.
Well, it was not the normal procession. I mean, at least in previous years, some Palestinian Christians from West Bank were given those permits by the Israeli military to cross to Jerusalem and attend whether the Via Dolorosa, Jerusalem, or visit Jerusalem, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre during the Holy Week. Permits are not available these days, normal sessions and prayers that take place in the old city with many faithful were missing, and you could see that very small numbers took part in these prayers. And let's be clear, the idea that we need a permit is ridiculous to begin with. That's the problem. The problem is not that Israel is not giving us permits. The problem is that we need permits to begin with as Palestinian Christians from Bethlehem or Ramallah, that we need those permits to go to Jerusalem. This is the real scandal here.
Can you describe the wall through Bethlehem for people to understand who haven't been there?
Yes, it's a really ugly concrete barrier that's taller even than the Berlin Wall. It cuts deep into some of our neighborhoods. It's very visible from very many places in Bethlehem. It gives the impression that we live in a big prison. And this is not just an impression, because all it takes for Israel right now is to close 2 checkpoints, and then we're completely isolated in Bethlehem. The wall speaks volumes. I mean, it's the message that it's sending, that we're not wanted, that we're as if dangerous. There is a psychological effect to it, again, because it's very visible. And the route of the wall is very indicative. As I said, it cuts deep into Palestinian neighborhoods in Bethlehem, and it basically confiscated all the land surrounding Bethlehem area. By that, I mean the agricultural land and land that would have been the space for natural expansion. That's why Bethlehem is very crowded right now. And when we say it confiscated Palestinian land, please understand, I'm not just making a political statement as if to say this is Palestinian land. This is land owned and farmed by Palestinian families, including Palestinian Christian families, for generations. But the wall has completely isolated us from from our lands.
Reverend Muntar Haysak, if you can talk about Gaza now, how many Christians, Palestinian Christians, are there? Why didn't most Christians leave Gaza City to go to Rafah?
Yes, there is around anything between 800 to 900 Palestinian Christians left in the Gaza Strip. And as you said, most of them preferred to stay in Gaza, in the city, and they preferred to take refuge in one of the 2 churches, the Orthodox Church and the Catholic Church. With the Catholic Church now hosting the majority because it has a bigger compound with the school. The decision was made by everyone involved. They met and they decided that they don't want to go to the unknown. They don't want to end up in Egypt, maybe, or in the desert. Don't forget that many still carry the memories of 1948, the Nakba. So they don't want to leave their homes again. And the message they told us is they'd rather die in the church rather than leave to the unknown and end up somewhere that they don't know. So they chose to be together. They chose to be in the 2 churches.
Catholic
and at times it was very difficult.
Baptist.
The Shifa Hospital is from walking distance from the 2 churches. So you could imagine the amount of trauma and fear they experienced. Many were killed in this war already, whether by bombardment or by snipers, or from diseases. The problem right now is if you get sick in Gaza, chances are very high you don't survive because there is no medical care at all.
I wanted to ask you 2 questions. One about the Pope giving his Easter sermon at the Vatican, calling for a ceasefire. While he called for peace, a Republican member of the U.S. Congress publicly suggested Gaza should be bombed, quote, like Nagasaki and Hiroshima. It was Michigan Congress member Tim Walberg, who himself is an ordained pastor, who made the comment during a recent town hall. Listen carefully, it's a little off mic.
We shouldn't be spending a dime on humanitarian aid. It should be like Nagasaki and Hiroshima. They're over quick.
thoughts shouldn't dime humanitarian aid, and it should be dealt with like the U.S. dealt with Nagasaki and Hiroshima?
I'm angry. It really makes me angry. And I've heard these comments and I couldn't believe it. I really couldn't believe it. It makes me angry as a Christian, makes me furious as a Christian for the lack of mercy and compassion. This is definitely not Jesus' way. I can't understand which Bible are they reading. And then when I search about this congressman, only to discover that he went to prestigious and influential evangelical seminaries. He was a pastor. I couldn't believe it. I mean, this is a stain on the credibility of the Christian witness. And the idea that he brings those two cities as a positive example, it's beyond my comprehension. He brings the example of two cities that were completely destroyed with hundreds of thousands killed as a positive example. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that, he would think of that, only to think that the real scary part of all of this is that Israel could actually do it and get away with it because of people like him providing the political and theological to execute such a genocide, just as we've been witnessing for the last 5 to 6 months. This is the scary part, that he thinks of it as a possibility and that we know that if it happens, there are those who will continue to defend it. I'm horrified by this. As a pastor, I'm appalled and I'm angry because this is not a Christian witness.
Finally,
we need more calls for ceasefire. We need stronger calls for a ceasefire like the one Pope Francis made. We need those church leaders to come and demand a ceasefire. It's beyond tragic. We need to be very forceful in our demand right now for a ceasefire.
Finally, in a moment, we're going to be talking about the mass protests in Tel Aviv around calling for, it used to be the resignation of Prime Minister Netanyahu. Now it's for the overthrow of the government. Your thoughts?
Well, I think Netanyahu should have resigned on October 7th. He led us to this mess. And I'm not just saying that because of his negligence, but his policies, this current Israeli government's policies, their policies with regard to continuing the split between the Palestinian Authority and Hamas, empowering one over the other, even bringing cash money, the fact that they intentionally killed the two-state solution, all of that led us, these are all the policies that led us to this mess. And we've been saying that things are about to explode. We've been warning for that. So to me, he should have resigned. If he had any integrity, he should have resigned immediately after October 7th for causing the deaths of so many innocent Palestinians and Israeli civilians, as we are witnessing right now.
Reverend Munther, I want to thank you so much for being with us, Reverend Munther Ishak, Palestinian Christian theologian, pastor at the Evangelical Lutheran Christmas Church in Bethlehem. He addressed Easter Vigil for Gaza on Saturday. Coming up, tens of thousands protested across Israel, calling for the ouster of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. We'll go to Tel Aviv for the latest in 20 seconds.
Nobody knows except you. You know where you're going.
Nobody Knows by Pastor Teal Barrett and the Youth for Christ Church. This is Democracy Now! I'm Amy Goodman. On Sunday, tens of thousands rallied across Israel calling for the ouster of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in the largest protest since the October 7th attacks. In Jerusalem, police fired skunk spray at demonstrators blocking a major highway. The protesters called for a ceasefire and the release of all hostages. As calls mount for his resignation, Benjamin Netanyahu is now recovering after undergoing hernia surgery Sunday night. For more, we go to Tel Aviv to speak with Oren Ziv, reporter and photographer for 972 Magazine, who's been covering the protests, joining us from Tel Aviv. Oren, welcome back to Democracy Now! It seems that the demands have changed over the last half year, from the resignation of Benjamin Netanyahu now to his overthrow, to his ouster. Can you describe these protests across Israel and what people are calling for?
Thank you for having me. We've seen those protests before October 7. Hundreds of thousands of Israelis against Netanyahu and his government and the legal changes they were leading. After October 7, of course, the Israeli public, the vast majority of it was in shock and trauma. And many of the center-left protesters were focusing in civilian help inside Israel and also in the struggle to release the hostages. But with the weeks and the months passing, more people felt that even during time of war, and I'm talking from the Israeli mainstream perspective, Netanyahu is just dealing with his own survival, with internal politics, and also he doesn't want eventually to release the hostages, with delaying the deal. And the common idea among the protesters that I spoke to, dozens of them, is that Netanyahu is delaying the war and dragging the war to save himself politically, that he doesn't really want to pay the political price to release the hostages, meaning to release Palestinian political prisoners, and therefore more people are going out. Secondly, and very interesting, while the mainstream family, like the vast majority of the families of hostages that have relatives who are held in Gaza, in the beginning they needed the government to agree on a deal. With time, and as we think that releasing the hostages is not more important than defeating or destroying Hamas, more and more families realize that they have to go out to the streets and to protest, not just for a general deal or negotiation, but specifically against Netanyahu. They see Netanyahu and, of course, Ben-Gvir and Smotrich as the obstacles to release their relative from Gaza. And this is why on Saturday we saw that the forum that unites many of the hostages' families declared that they will not make any vigil or quiet gatherings, and they will join the more active families that were blocking roads, lighting fires, and doing more direct actions. And one of the reasons that this is happening is because Netanyahu and the people around him, in general, the right was inciting against these families, saying that they should be silent, saying they're serving Hamas by protesting, connecting between them and the anti-government protesters, although not a incitement against them. Netanyahu actually pushed them to unite with the anti-government protests.
If you can talk about what the protesters are saying about the future of the occupation. And also, we rarely hear that there's been this vigil outside of the military intelligence headquarters in Tel Aviv, led by the hostage families, demanding that their loved ones be released and that the Israeli government work towards that and prioritize that.
So yes, from the beginning of the war, from days after the war began, you had a small group of radical left-wing activists protest against the war, for ceasefire, saying the massacre against Palestinians cannot continue, and also mentioning, of course, that in order to release the hostages, the war has to end and there has to be a ceasefire and a deal. This is a few hundreds of people that have been attacked and arrested by the police. While the mainstream public, their opinion is more complicated. Many of them support the war generally, but think that now the only way to release the hostages is a deal. But with time, more and more of them understand that also Netanyahu doesn't have a plan for the day after, regardless the horrific things, the killings in Gaza, the massacre. Netanyahu doesn't want to plan anything ahead. He doesn't want Hamas to be there. He doesn't want the PA to be there. He doesn't want any kind of Palestinian authority in Gaza. And with that understanding, many people understand that Netanyahu will just want to stay in this status of war, maybe forever. Then he doesn't have to bring the hostages. To release the hostages, he has to pay a political price to release Palestinian prisoners. This can endanger his coalition with Ben-Gvir and Smotrich and other extreme right-wing figures who oppose any release of Palestinian political prisoners. So with time, you do hear So people are calling for ceasefire and for a deal, but from an internal Israeli perspective of releasing the hostages and thinking about the day after, and less from the perspective we're seeing abroad of just calling to end the massacre in Gaza.
And finally, we just have about 30 seconds. We last talked to you where that thousands of Israelis gathering with Smotrich and Ben Gvir, calling for Jewish settlements in Gaza, etc. Do you see a growing group of people opposing that in Israel?
Yes, definitely. The group that was calling to settle in Gaza, among with the activists who are blocking the aid, are confronted by the Israeli mainstream public that thinks that this is irrelevant and cannot be done, and also
RNZ, we're going to have to leave it there. For best reporter and photographer from 7-2 magazine. That does it for our show. I'm Amy Goodman.
So this is the day after Easter, and I don't know where the audience is. You know, here we are, 2:00, and what are you doing? You can't see what's going on. That our whole planet, you know, we have been in a a fascist oligarchy, since the fall of the Tower of Babel. I'm just picking that as a reference point that everyone somewhat knows. But what you eat, the air you're breathing, the water you're drinking, your smartphone, the internet, everything is being used to manipulate your spiritual sense. Worrying about how you're going to pay your bills, whatever emotional riffraff you have with relationships. These are all things that are used to, the Roman motif of separate and conquer. That's what's going on. We have to be more. I mean, that's what, Christ was, whether Christ existed or not, he did, because it's the essence of forgiveness that's important, not the physical character, not the Easter bunny or the duck on your shoulder. No. What is it about? It's about love's co-creation, about, when you I serve God in Jesus, God in Jesus, God in Jesus. Well, that's nice to say, but what are you doing about it? And you're not perfect. You just have to be your best. That's it. In the moment. Not plan into the future. Oh, I'm going to lift all these weights. I'm going to get into shape. Oh, I'm going to clean the house. How long is it going to take you to clean the house? I mean, that's why John Boy is such a great metaphor. He really freaking is. I mean, I couldn't invent him. People say, why do you hang out with that jerk ass? Well, because he is the golden canary in the diamond box of self-afflicted pain, right? He goes, oh, I suffered so much. Well, moron, it's you who are making you suffer so much. God doesn't do it. Because God made me do. No. Sorry. All God does is help us deal with our issues, right? God gives us what we need. And we go to God through Jesus's unconditional forgiveness. You can't do that. You're going to end up like John Birmingham, right? So go watch John Birmingham. Watch him a lot. I mean, watch him almost 24/7. Get his numbers up. Make him an A-lister. You want to see some really strange shit? Make John Birmingham an A-lister. You want to see the human dynamic of Job right there in front of you on your screen? Just look at John Birmingham, right? Now, me, I'm just a chucklehead, I'm here to, in every day, in every way, take the peace of the earth and make it stronger. I could go on and on and on about all the sufferings I've had, and I have them every day, meaning I am in pain. I am barely alive. I can't see anything, I can barely breathe. I can't even walk, but I do because it's a miracle. God gives me the auspices I don't have the auspices. You know, God's grace is my auspices. God's faith in me being me, as his slave, not his servant. I am not God's servant. I am God's slave. There's a big difference. Servant is someone who hands out cheeseburgers at McDonald's, and not just to one, I have one master, God, period. Right? And, the Trinity in God is understandable, The Godhead, cannot be even conceived of by us, right? So there was needed a physical representation, which was Jesus. That was the body. Just like your body isn't you. This ain't me. This is my avatar, my meat sack, And when I had my heart kerfuffle last week, they said, "So you got anybody, to call?" Meaning, if you die under this procedure, who do we call? That's basically they say it. Is there anyone you wanted to call? I said, "Yeah. My brothers and sisters are dead. They're not. They're just, they never pick up the phone. So I said, okay. So I gave my sister's phone number because they never answer, and I said, otherwise, just throw me in a dumpster, because it's like the Klingons, after one of their buddies die, they all get in a circle, go, ah! And then they walk away and go have a beer. So, that's, every morning I wake up, it takes me an hour to kind of get up, right? That's like, I wake up, got one eye open, I look around, can I see? Kind of. Can I breathe? Almost, And then I have to do these exercises, my breathing exercises, and they really hurt. But they kept me breathing and my heart doing what it's supposed to. So anyway, that's about it. Let's see, what time is it? Ooh. How long have we been doing this? Not even an hour, and nobody's here. So I'm going to come back maybe in an hour or two. We'll see what happens, and I will talk to you later. How much juice do we have left? Must have. Okay. See you later.